Hey guys, welcome back to Dylan's Slow Hobbies, and in today's video we are going to be talking about the ins and outs of fish keeping. In today's video we are going to be talking about aquascaping. Yes, one of the funnest things you can do with a fish tank, but also somewhat one of the most challenging things you can do for a fish tank. Yes, I absolutely do love aquascaping. At the same time, it can drive you crazy. It drives me crazy when you have a vision, but it just doesn't seem to be coming true when you start messing with the rocks and wood and stuff. It's just crazy. But with that said, what is aquascaping? Why do we do it? Why is it a whole lot of fun? And yeah, we're going to be talking about all of that in today's video, as well as tips and tricks on how to improve your aquascape, and I'll even show you a sneak peek on an aquascape that I am working on for my first saltwater tank. Yes, I've been in the hobby for a couple of years. I absolutely love aquascapes, mostly in the freshwater world. I've never set up a saltwater tank. I've never aquascaped a saltwater tank before, and I'm doing it for the first time. So I will show you a glimpse to what my aquascape for the saltwater tank will look like at the end of this video. With that said, let's go ahead and begin. Now, the term aquascape is mostly used in the freshwater world, but a lot of people in the saltwater world are starting to understand how important an aquascape really is to the overall design of the tank. Because anyone can stick just a rock into the tank and call it an aquascape, but it takes kind of an artistic hand to really capture the interest of not only the fish, but of the rock itself. Now, with that said, what is aquascaping? Well, let's look at the word. Aqua means water, and scape. Aquascape, scaping, landscaping, putting rocks and trees and just making something look nice in your yard. Yeah, it's basically we're doing the exact same thing, only instead of putting it into our backyard or front yard, we are putting this landscape, into our fish tanks for us not only to enjoy, but for our fish to enjoy. With that said, how do you start an aquascape? So for me personally, this is just the type of fish keeper I am, I guess. What a lot of people tend to do is they get a tank, they start messing with rocks and wood and whatever else they're using, and they make something and then they go, yeah, I don't know what fish I'm gonna put in it. Then they put a fish in it. The scape looks nice for a couple of months, but then they lose interest in the project because they aren't interested in the fish. The aquascaping was just something they threw together for fun. And eventually, after a couple of months, it doesn't look any good and they move on. That's not exactly a bad thing to do, but just for me, that's just not something that I personally like to do. For me, when it comes to fish keeping, it's all about the fish, right? That's where you really want to start out with. You want to start your aquascape by knowing what fish you want to keep. Now, I'm not saying you need to know about every little detail of what fish and plants and if you're in the saltwater world, what coral you're going to use. No, but I'm saying you should have a general idea of what you actually want to put into this tank. So, that's just where I start out with. I start out with the fish. And by doing that, not only can you find out more information about the fish, what tank size you need for that fish, what special requirements and care that fish needs, but also you can also get an idea of what that fish natural habitat. Did I really just say inhabitat? Inhabitat. You gotta know what their natural habitat is. And from that, you can be inspired to create something for your own fish tank. Now, with that said, does that mean all aquariums have to be biotopes? Do we have to completely 100% replicate the environment that is out there? No, but it just gives you some inspiration and some idea of what these certain fish usually use in their natural environments. That gives you a better idea of creating something where the fish will be much more happier and much more. You can make an environment that the fish is going to be much more comfortable in, as well as you can get an idea of what other fish tank keepers of that fish put that fish into their aquascape. What aquascape is the fish? That's the most important thing to me. What aquascape can I create that the fish are going to feel much more comfortable in? Now, for example, some fish like swimming around caves and hiding in caves, so maybe put a couple of caves or a lot of caves in your aquascape. Some fish like open swimming rooms, so maybe don't aquascape right in the middle of the tank where you have a vast amount of area where fish can swim through. Or maybe some fish just like to swim at the bottom, so maybe don't put a lot of plants or stuff at the bottom of the tank so that the fish at the bottom have room to swim. All these type of things need to be thought of when aquascaping with fish. A really good example is, of course, my shell dwellers. This is my Fluval Megaflex shell dweller tank, and I have a whole bunch of shells and sand in this aquarium. Now I also have some nice rocks and plants in the back, but notice that I didn't put like tons of stuff in the front of the tank because that's where the shells are going to go. That's how this fish is most comfortable in. This fish is most comfortable in a tank with rock, a couple of shells, and some sand. They don't really need much else. With that said, now once you have an idea of what fish you're going to keep, what environment makes that fish happy, you can start getting an idea of what you can do with your aquarium. Hopefully you bought the perfect tank for that fish. Hopefully you bought the perfect lights for your plants, or maybe coral if you're going to be doing coral. Hopefully you got everything you need. What I suggest you do now is you pick your rocks, you pick your wood if you're going to do a freshwater tank, I guess, or substrate. Hey, even if you're doing a tank without substrate, you gotta make that decision. And then what I would do is I would measure the tank. Now what I do is I measure my tank. I get a piece of cardboard and write out my size of the tank on that piece of cardboard. And then using that piece of cardboard, I start messing with the rocks and the wood on top of that cardboard. And then by doing that, you do multiple things. One, you don't have the risk of possibly damaging your tank with messing with heavy rocks. The rocks fall down, and then you got a crack in your tank. You don't want that happening. So by aquascaping on the ground outside of the tank, on like a piece of cardboard or a table or something like that, just gives you the ability to aquascape without breaking the tank, hopefully, as well as it gives you a better look at how the aquascape looks at different angles, which rocks go where, and it just gives you a easier time of aquascaping if you aquascape out of the tank. That way you can get a shape of what you want the tank to look like, what you want the rocks to look like, what you want the plants, the wood, whatever else. You get an idea of what it looks like, and then you can slowly put that aquascape inside your aquarium. Now it's great to get advice from other fish tank keepers and see pictures of, get an idea of what type of aquascape you want for the tank and all. But here's the thing, don't let anyone, and I mean don't let anyone tell you that your aquascape, that your tank, or that your fish choice is lame. Don't let anyone tell you that, okay? Because if they tell you that your tank or your fish or your aquascape is lame, then here's the fact. They're lame. Don't let anyone tell you that your aquascape is lame. However, there are ways you could improve your aquascape. So, I indeed really like the look of the rock wall look. A lot of people do this, especially in the saltwater world. But you know, by taking the aquascape off of the back, putting it somewhat more in the middle of the tank and just having an area come off of the back, where an area where the fish can swim behind the aquascape, not only can you get more flow around the aquascape, which means less cleaning that muck, you know, or at least much more of an easier time cleaning that muck out of the tank. You can also, of course, see more of a three-dimensional look with the fish going forward, behind a rock, around a rock, instead of just sitting right in front of a rock. It's great to have a lot of front space, and I've done this with a lot of my tanks as well. But I always keep in mind, I try to kind of keep the aquascape a little bit off of the background. That way, or at least off of the back of the tank. That way the fish can go around the aquascape, hide if they want to. It just adds much more of a three-dimensional look to the tank. Another thing that I absolutely love is I love messing with the shadows. Just by messing with your fish tank light, the position of the light, how much light you have in the tank. Maybe you have a more shallow light, maybe you have a more direct light. Just with messing with your light, just a tiny bit, you can make a much more dramatic, shadowy effect with your aquarium that just looks a lot more interesting. I personally like black backgrounds on aquariums because it can really give an idea that the tank goes a whole lot further behind than it actually is. I love that. Or it can make it look like the whole tank is just floating there in space. It just looks incredibly interesting and good. I really do like aquascapes like that. At least that is me personally. But the most important thing at the end of the day is that your fish love it and that you love it. You know? So whatever fish tank you have, whatever aquascape you do in that tank, as long as you like it, then that's all that matters. But everyone has their own kind of style of aquascapes. That's what's fun about it. It is truly an art form. Not everyone's gonna like it, not everyone's gonna love it, but I sure love aquascaping. Alright, before we get out of here, of course I told you guys I would show you guys this. This is an aquascaping I am working on for a saltwater tank. Yeah, it's going to be my first saltwater tank, my first saltwater aquascape, and you guys are just seeing a little sneak peek of it. I hope you guys like the sneak peek I gave you. If you guys want to see this tank, well, click subscribe, because pretty soon I'm going to be putting out videos on my saltwater tank. Thank you guys for watching, and I am out. Bye. Click that like button, click subscribe. Don't forget to hit that bell so you guys can stay up to my videos. And of course, I actually now do videos on Facebook and stuff like that, so you guys can go check that out in the description below as well. Thank you guys for watching, and I am out. Bye.